What's really weird is just kind of seeing this industry further consolidate because it is getting to the point where a lot of people are growing organically without really even trying because there's a big hole in the number of providers in there.
What signals tell you a company should consider selling?
You don't want to sell when you're down. Basic stock market philosophy. The reality is that you want to transact when it's right for you. You can't really just follow a market or market dynamics on that.
You kind of talked about using M&A to grow, not just like to exit. How should owners start thinking about it?
When you're young and you're aggressive and you're like, hey, yeah, I want to grow multiple states and multiple locations. And by far the easiest way to do that is through acquisitions, through strategic acquisitions. So there's going to be a certain level of sophistication that a lot of folks have, thus making it easier to do acquisitions. As an operator, as an entrepreneur, is having employees go up and say, hey, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? What should I do? I want them to do and make decisions on their own. And I think that's really powerful is when people can do that and you can put people in those positions to execute, they're going to go above and beyond.
If someone is listening right now and they're thinking about selling their DME in the next 2 to 3 years, what should they start doing today or start thinking about?
Oh, lots of fun things. Really.
All right, we are live in the #1 DME podcast, Claim to Fame. Today we have a very special guest, Bradley Smith from Vertes. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Alex. Like I said before, Brad, just Brad.
All right, cool. We'll go with Brad today. How's it going, Brad? Thanks for joining.
Doing good. Just pouring down rain outside.
Well, thanks for joining us, Brad. As we were chatting before this, like we said, we saw you speak at MedTrade, and you were talking a lot about something that many owners are quietly thinking about right now, and that is whether they should grow, sell, or just try to stay competitive in the market. So kind of wanted to open up the conversation around that. But before we do, I understand that back in the day you have built and ran some DME companies about yourself. So you can kind of tell us a little bit about Brad Smith, kind of what you do and kind of a little bit about your past, and then we'll jump into it. But for anyone that doesn't know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And then first, not mean to correct you on your show, Wayne, but I believe the word you used was it was the best thing you've ever heard in MedTrade before was my session. Was that maybe I'm paraphrasing? Like it might be off or something along.
I haven't stopped.
We didn't do the notes right there.
I had to get you on the podcast.
Yeah, I meant that part, please. No,
we'll try to one up it with this episode.
I got to set the bar high. You rise to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Bradley Smith with Vertes, we're a healthcare M&A firm, been around for about 14 years now. I started out in undergrad working at a durable medical equipment company back in, I would say it's like 97, 98. After I finished school, I went to that owner and said, hey, I want to open up one of these. And so I had some money saved. I borrowed some money and I had a credit card, and everyone knows you just put anything on a credit card. You don't have to pay those things back. So I opened up a DME in Tyler, Texas. We specialized in mobility at the time. Shortly after, I bought my partner out and continued to grow it and grew it organically. And 5, 6, 7 locations, something like that. Ultimately, I found I just focused on mobility, and I really didn't know a lot about anything else, respiratory, disposables, whatever. And this little provider in Tyler came up for sale. He was an O2 provider. I went acquiring him. He stayed on, taught me everything about O2, and it turned out to be highly accretive at all the locations, and thought, hey, this is great. I just need to grow more through acquisition. It's safer, faster, easier way to grow. You know exactly what you're getting into. I just need more money. So I did a private equity recap in 2004 and with a small PE out of Grapevine, Texas. From there, after we did that transaction, they came to me, the board came to me and said, hey, we noticed you get most of your patients through discharge. Why don't we create a continuum of care, just before really what a continuum of care was, in and around these patients and take care of all their needs, from labs to pharmacy to home care to whatever. And so I said, okay, great. How do we do that? And we said, let's go out and acquire everything you need. And so we went out and acquired all these different companies. And I learned a lot about transactions and learned that I like doing that more than actually running a DME. It's a lot more fun. It's not quite as hard as actually owning and operating durable medical equipment, along with, dealing with patients and doing everything else that comes along with that. Long story short, fast forward 2008, Medicare competitive bidding came. We didn't get a competitive bid. And ultimately the board said, sell it, chopped it up pieces, sold it off. And then started doing clinical work for a while. I'm an ATP. I was doing transactional work on the side. Really realized that, hey, I like doing transactional work much better. I'm good at it. And then ultimately went to work for a big firm out in LA. And then after a few years there, me and another gentleman started Vertes, and I think about 12, 13 years ago, somewhere along that timeline, and have created a M&A firm focused entirely just on healthcare. Me and a couple of my colleagues do majority of the DME, HME, home care part of it. And we probably do more DME, HME transactions than anyone else out there. We really enjoy it. We got a small team. I think there's 16 of us, and work in the US and in all 50 states, plus a little bit international.
Awesome. Yeah, this is really exciting because we get to speak to someone on the other side of the whole DME sphere, which is, what you're doing, which is completely different than what we usually get. Usually we're speaking to DME owners and operators and vendors, like we were saying before. So it's pretty exciting to see someone who's on the buying side on, mergers, acquisitions, and things like that. So super cool to have you and talk about that with us here. And I guess note for anyone who is a DME owner or provider and wants to get out of the business, this is your guy. So listen closely to this episode. But Brad, like we were mentioning before, you were at MedTrade and you were considered the number one speaker at MedTrade, according to yourself. And what was the core message that you were trying to get through to providers? Like, what do you want the providers to walk away with?
God, I'm trying to remember what I even talked about at MedTrade, to be honest. It was,
I guess
like
what
You
do
made
you
a bunch of stuff up.
No, I believe it was, God, I really don't really remember. It's in and around, obviously, transactions. One of the themes that we've done before is simply based on what I've done, is how to grow like an Adapt, like a Lincare, like a Rotech, like one of these big boys do, and how smaller regional players can do that and take advantage of the market and grow in a non-organic fashion, and what are the implications, and just what's the process of how to do that. Once again, that was such a powerful way for me to grow as as an entrepreneur. When I had mine, growing organically just had all these risks and had lots of issues with it. And growing through acquisition, you know what you're acquiring, and the revenue, the breakdown, the payers, the types, everything that you're getting a hold of. And once again, it's just a faster, easier, quicker way to grow. And then really what we start to go into is the nuances of how to do those acquisitions. What is there to do within that? It's not just simply walking up, giving someone a bag of cash and them riding off in the sunset. You got to learn how to protect yourself and in the nuance of those transactions.
Got it. And, we've spoken with a handful of people that were at MedTrade, and, there's a lot of new and exciting things in DME. Was there anything kind of in your world or through your lens that stood out about where the industry is right now compared to maybe previous years?
Um, this is probably my, I've been going to MedTrade, I think, since 2020, or excuse me, since 2001. And so obviously I've seen it change quite a bit throughout the years. You know, yes, I mean, the moratorium just had set in. So that was obviously quite different, and it has some unique challenges within itself. But, what's really weird is just kind of seeing this industry further consolidate, because it is getting the point where a lot of people are growing organically without really even trying, because there's a big hole in the number of providers in there. What I find kind of really encouraging, and what I really enjoyed about particularly this past MedTrade, to answer your question, is I met quite a few young people. I say younger entrepreneurs new to DME, saying, "Hey, we're excited about the DME HME industry because of these things, because of these factors, and we're putting our our eggs in this basket, and we're excited about it." And that was really exciting to me, is seeing kind of this uptick, or what perceived uptick that I have, of younger folks, new entrepreneurs getting into the DME business, because I think that's something that we need and have lacked a little bit in the ones that have done really well, or these people that come from the outside that have innovative ideas that can look from the outside and apply what, previous fields they were in into DME and innovate and adapt and change.
Yeah, and for sure,
Yeah.
Brad, well, at least from my point of view, we see the same things where there's new market participants definitely coming in, but perhaps taking a different approach, whether that's being more tech forward in their approach or creating models that are new and different. But there's definitely kind of, I think resurgence might be too extreme, but there's people trying to leverage technology in a way to solve some of these big problems in DME, and maybe do it better than people in their area or wherever they kind of see their wedge in. So I definitely see the same things from our end, because they're looking for software to manage their business, and that's obviously what we do. But going back to kind of meeting some of these younger entrepreneurs, you've actually built and scaled a DME yourself. How does that experience kind of shape how you advise owners today?
Well, I have empathy first. having having been there and done that before,
Yeah.
one of the things I really hated is just every year having to reinvent yourself and reinvent. Hey, I know we were focused on this product category or this, insurance, whatever. There's been a massive change and reform to it. Now we have to really reinvent the wheel all over again and start almost anew. That frustration, that kind of constant whipping is I'm just glad I'm not in that side of it. So I can empathize with them. I can also empathize with, I mean, I obviously you guys weren't around back when I had my DME, but we would have, multiple systems. You'd have a billing system, you'd have, an inventory system, you'd have all these systems, and you're entering, just doing these repetitive droning on work of entering 10 different systems for the same patient and all that. So I've been there, I've done that. I've been where you've had tight times where it's like, all right, I'm going to pay my employees, but I'm not getting paid this month. Or you've been there where you've had patients pass away that you're close to that would, come in and see regularly, or even the stories of like the patient who decide to fill his CPAP reservoir with bong water. And I wonder what was wrong
That's
with
the
the
first
CPAP.
for our podcast.
Yes, that was a real thing that happened. The guy walked in the door and it was like, my CPAP's not working. And I opened the reservoir and I was like, oh my God, what is that? And I was like, wait a second, I recognize that smell. Is this bong water? And he's like, no, man. Yes, man. I was like, yeah, I don't think that's got to be good for you.
Turn a CPAP into a bong, and that's definitely a first.
It wasn't even that; it was just the water. So I was like, oh no. Anyways, I'll digress.
Yeah.
On that. But having those stories,
Yeah,
those hearing,
that's actually even crazier now that I think about it. All the downside, none of the upside.
no, yeah, that's what it would
Yeah.
just floored me on that. So, but yeah,
Unreal. Yeah, definitely a first.
yeah, but the craziness you go through as a provider, because that's just, one story. There's just hundreds of other stories, especially back in the power wheelchair days of the different, stuff people would do. And it's just always, it's kind of a never dull moment on that patient care side. And so, yeah, you get that. I get that. And in certain aspects, you have the fond memories of, and other parts you don't. And so, yeah, so I understand the struggles, what they've gone through, what they've done, and then I can do a better job of relaying what their story is, because that's a big piece of the puzzle. Is, hey, what's the story? What's the legacy? What's, when a lot of these DME owners look to retire, when they look to exit out, what's the legacy of that business? Because at some point in time, that business will pass on to other hands, and you want your patients taken care of. You want your employees taken care of. You want that legacy to stay in place, and all that's part of the story, and it's a big piece of the puzzle.
For sure. I was curious, from your vantage point, what are you really seeing right now in the DME M&A market today? Are owners looking to sell or hold, or what's going on from your perspective?
A little bit of everything right now, to be honest. Just for kind of retrospect, into 2020, 21, 22 were just huge years for just M&A in general. In particular, DME valuations went drastically up, lots of transactions, a lot of activity. In 23 and 24, we had a very noticeable decline in activity. Valuations had dropped, and there was large, broader implications on the macroeconomics of the marketplace, interest rates going up, inflation, so on and so forth. 2025 and this year, I want to say we've leveled off. We're not in a boom or bust cycle right now. We're kind of at a normal market cycle is really what I've seen lately. And this year, it's been a little, it's normal, but it's kind of hot and cold. So we'll get all of a sudden a bunch of steam, and then it'll just let off the gas, and then it'll pick up again. And so we are seeing activity. We're steadily transacting, folks. Valuations are lumpy, I guess would be the best way to say it. Valuations on smaller DMEs at this time right now are a little bit of the lower end, I would say, from a historical level. But if you have any kind of scale or a particular niche, the valuation's a little bit more on the outlier side. So it's just kind of so I would say it's odd, but it's more of a normalized marketplace right now that we're seeing.
Interesting. And kind of thinking about hot and cold, or from like a provider's perspective, what signals tell you a company should consider selling?
So something that should be kind of obvious. You don't want to sell when you're down. As basic stock market philosophy, buy low, sell high. You want to sell when you're on an upswing, when things are going well, when you're growing, when things are looking good. Don't sell when you're down. But the reality is you want to transact when it's right for you. You can't really just follow a market or market dynamics on that. If you're successful in building a good company that's valuable, it's really when the time is right for that individual, that's when they should transact. They shouldn't be like, oh, the market really good right now, let's transact. You do it when the timing's right for you.
Got it.
Right on. And what would you say that owners are kind of getting wrong about when they're thinking about exiting?
Oh, lots of things. No, I think one thing in particular that I see that happens a lot is owners don't recognize that there's a lot of buyers out there, and there's a lot of people willing to acquire their business. It's very unusual that it was very, very common, rather, let me say that. Very common that I'll get a phone call from somebody that says, hey, XYZ called me up. They're going to make an offer and send me an LOI. So, but they're like, well, that's special. Someone's interested in me, and it's like they caught the attention of this, and that's the only possible buyer out there. It's like, no, if you have a healthy, good-looking company, there's literally dozens and dozens of buyers out there. And by moving forward with just one, you're going to put yourself in a precarious position that this one buyer is dictating all the terms and everything else. They'll make you a good offer. They absolutely will. It won't make you a great offer, and they have the ability to retrade and change up terms because they're the only game in town that at least that they're aware of. So that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I see. A lot of it is buyers clients, sellers do get to the point where they're just burned out or they wait too late. That happens a lot. People get proud. I can't tell you how many times people have told me, you see an offer or something like that, and they say, oh, well, that's insulting. And honestly, you can never underestimate the willingness of someone to make you a lowball crap offer. That happens all the time, but that doesn't mean that's what your value is worth or anything along those lines. That's so it's a very emotional thing, as you can imagine. Sure. For most owners. It was for me. I still get somewhat emotional with my clients, because you want the best for them. You want to fight for them, and when someone's taking advantage or not taking advantage. And so it's hard not to be emotional, but that's probably one of the biggest rules is just leave your emotions at the door. This is business.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And you mentioned some of the valuations with the outliers, and it's lumpy. What actually drives valuations in DME businesses today?
Good question. A whole litany of different things. A lot of it's free cash flow. A lot of it's EBITDA. At the core root of everything, acquisitions take place because people want to sit down and honestly gain employees. That's probably the hardest thing right now if you look at it. That's usually the number one thing I get asked on immediately out of the gate. Tell me about the management team. Tell me about the staff. Tell me about the people that are working there that are staying on with the business. You got to think in this environment, it's hard to find good people that know what they're doing. And that's probably the biggest factor that denotes a lot of stuff. Now, tangible, how tangible is that? That's hard to quantify on that. But I look at things like that. Also look at culture, fit, all those things that are hard to quantify are extremely important. Now, everyone does go back to the easy factors of the qualitative, the quantitative factors of it. Of all right, EBITDA, let's do multiples of revenue, all these different things. But it's that qualitative factor that really defines a business, and that's how you kind of go from good and break out of those traditional multiples to get an outlier, is by having something that's just extremely well run, extremely well executed on. And usually begins with that good ownership.
Got it. Really interesting. Thank you.
Brad, you kind of talked about using M&A to grow, not just to exit. How should owners start thinking about it like that?
Look at themselves. I mean, that's the one thing I wanted to sit down and build a massive, DME, which was kind of crazy because I have zero desire ever to do anything huge like that. But a lot of people, when you're young and you're aggressive, you're like, hey, yeah, I want to grow multiple states and multiple locations. And by far the easiest way to do that is through acquisitions, through strategic acquisitions that are usually geographic based and or product or whatever that is you're looking to gain. And from there, honestly, there's not a whole ton in the marketplace like it used to be. The nice part, I guess, about the market now is most people have certain minimums economies of scale that you have to be profitable to operate within this market. And so there's going to be a certain level of sophistication that a lot of folks have, thus making it easier to do acquisitions. You're not going to have people doing, like back in my day, people were still doing paper billing. That doesn't exist anymore. You're billing through systems. And all right, through those systems, then from there, you can go in and measure. You're going to have KPIs and all these different areas that you can actually measure and look at and monitor. So you can evaluate businesses of how it overlays and tracks into your business and make educated decisions on, all right, is this worth me acquiring? What's that risk? And what's the likelihood of a successful transaction? And then post-transaction, can we fully integrate it into our systems and be successful with that on a long run, or maybe even more, I don't know, more than successful. That's not really a thing, but outpace the success this other firm is having or this other DME is having.
Got it. And Brad, just kind of thinking, big picture, and you obviously have a ton of experience. Who do you think is going to win over the next few years in just terms of the DME landscape? Are you just going to say, I feel like the best operators, or what was it, the best owners? But if there's anything that kind of insights from a big picture you think will help our listeners kind of think different about the next couple of years.
I hate to say this, but private equity. I mean, that's the reality of the beast here is all the big nationals, everybody's private equity backed. That's the world we live in now. If you're a $10 million, even $20 million revenue DME, $5 million or whatever, you're competing against private equity backed DMEs that have endless supply of capital, endless supply of resources, and they're going to continue to gain market share. And honestly, they've really trained their eye on the DME market. Obviously, I've been doing this for a long time now. DME really wasn't that involved. Private equity wasn't that involved in the DME marketplace until probably about when COVID hit. And then they saw a lot of value and they saw a lot of consolidation and they saw, hey, we have some very defined borders and some very, what am I looking for? The broad landscape of competitive nature that they can't get into unless they acquire contracts and everything. So I think ultimately it's going to be them that are going to continue to control a lot of the markets. Unfortunately, just the way it is.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I feel like that's not just DME, right? I mean, that's a lot of industries, a lot of spaces. That's a lot of these blue collar jobs, these service jobs, home service businesses. It's all kind of being rolled up. PE's getting involved, and it's hard to compete when you're facing, these guys have got a lot of money and resources. So yeah, it's a tough reality. But if someone is listening right now and they're thinking about selling their DME in the next 2 to 3 years, what should they start doing today or start thinking about?
Oh, lots of fun things. Really be objective if you can. I get it. Entrepreneurs are always optimistic. Everything's going to turn out for the best. You're going to have to be that way. Otherwise you wouldn't be an entrepreneur. But the things that they in particular start looking at is free cash flow. Obviously everyone's going to want to maximize their exit. So start looking at that. Start looking at their involvement, those owners and their involvement within their organization. The less involvement they have, the better. They have a good management team, good employees, and they can sit down and say, hey, I just phone it in once a week. I check on these certain things and that's about all I do. Even better. That's more powerful. That shows, real faith and execution in those employees. From there, start looking at, the quantitative metrics within their business. So is cost of goods too high? Is the ratio of employee per revenue, is that in line with market values? Is that in line with the types of products that they're transacting with? Start looking at from a seller's mindset too of, hey, I really need to buy this new van, or do I need to buy this new, whatever this is? Can I PM these vents instead of just buying new vents? Whatever that is, but start thinking a lot more efficiently. And there's a kind of a full laundry list of different things, and it varies for a whole lot of individuals. But at the same time, also be thinking, hey, if I transact and I'm exiting out, which happens obviously a lot of times people will transact and stay in, two different things. But if they're actually looking to exit out, hey, what am I going to do when I'm out? That's also kind of the emotional aspect of it, of like, I've had people, we get close to the finish line and they back out because what am I going to do? I don't know, read books. Am I going to go fish all day? What's going to happen? And they rightfully freak out because they don't know what they're going to do.
Doesn't sound like the worst thing. I'd probably play pickleball or tennis or golf or probably anything.
I'm still trying to get there too, brother. But I don't know, at the same time, after,
No, I get it. Yeah.
playing pickleball 24/7, you're probably going to get a little burnt out on it.
Yeah. You'll be thinking about DME while you're swinging the paddle. Our kind of closing out question here, Brad, is for all the DME owners listening, if you had to give them one piece of advice about building a business that actually has long-term value, what would it be?
I think it goes back to the people. Empower your employees to make decisions. They're going to screw up. They're going to do the wrong thing from time to time. But I personally would much rather have someone ask for forgiveness than permission. The last thing I want is someone who, or any as an operator, as a entrepreneur, is having employees go up and say, hey, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? What should I do? I want them to do and make decisions on their own. And I think that's really powerful, is when people can do that and you can put people in those positions to execute. They're going to go above and beyond. They're going to screw up from time to time, but hey, everybody does.
Awesome.
Right
Great advice.
Thanks, Brad. Well, now we'll finish up with our rapid fire round. It's usually how we end up with every podcast. So it's kind of like a this or that easy, fun segment. If you're ready to jump into it, we can get started.
Okay.
All right, here we go. We'll start off easy. Early bird or night owl?
Oh, night owl.
Coffee or tea?
Both, actually. Coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon.
Plan everything or wing it?
Wing it.
Bong water in your CPAP machine or not?
Definitely not.
Always 10 minutes early or 5 minutes late?
I'm usually right on time, to be honest. I hate to be kind of in the middle. I used to
All right.
always be late. Then I got married, and that changed. But I'm right on time,
There you go.
just in the nick of time.
Work hard, then relax, or relax, then work hard.
Work hard, then relax.
Right on. Last one. Spend money or save it.
Oh, spend it. So much more fun.
Love that. Cool, Bradley. Well, if anyone wants to get in contact with you or find out more information about you or your business, what's the best way for someone to reach out?
Vertes.com. That's V as in Victor, ERTESS.com, or my email is bsmith@vertes.com.
Perfect. Well,
Awesome.
thanks so much for joining today. This is awesome. Really cool perspective that we usually don't get on the podcast. So I really appreciate you joining today.
This was a great one.
Appreciate you
Thanks,
guys
Brad.
having me. Yeah,
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks. Take care.
Yep, thank you.